Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. This is the lean-to build day 5. If you haven't seen 1 through 4 so far, they've been short videos. Go back, watch those. We're gonna go through today how we're gonna put metal on the roof, cut our band board out here, get our fascia board all on, and then try to start getting metal on the walls and doing some trimming. So that's all coming up today, right after this. Well, welcome back. Hopefully you had a good Christmas and you have been watching these videos and you'll follow up where we're at today. I did have one comment, actually somebody I know who texted me, my buddy Ron, and he said I didn't mention this point. And so we want to talk about this. I've seen many people mess this up, and so has he. And so I want to point this out. Hangers, on your joist hangers up here, you saw how I've installed them in. I use screws. That is typically a bad idea. So hangers need to have specific nails, thicker nails, or specific screws. I didn't point out that I have bought these high tensile screws specifically for these hangers and some other jobs that I've had. They're 1.5 inches long. They're meant to go in here. You cannot put just any screw or any nail in a hanger due to shear strength, which means the wind coming along and just ripping this off, they will not pull out. It's not that we're worried about. It's just them snapping. The wind can just come along and snap them off. So a nail has a much higher tensile strength, shear strength than typically a screw does. But roofing nails, drywall screws, big no-nos. You shouldn't be using those anywhere on any kind of project like this. And if you're gonna put screws in your hangers, they need to be specific hanger purchased screws. And so you'll have to go to the store and ask somebody about that, getting high tensile screws. Otherwise, they make a nail that's specifically for hangers. And they also now make a nail gun specifically for hangers and hurricane strips, which if you're putting trusses on a building, that's what those things are called. And so my father-in-law, who runs a contracting business, says that's one of the best tools in contracting he has purchased, is that hanger nail gun that specifically puts the right screws in the hangers. But the main thing for you to do as a DIYer is to know you cannot just put any nail or any screw in these hangers and have the same strength. The weight of this building is sitting on that. Now, I have toe nailed into the original building through the board. I put a screw in the top, which is not standard. I also put a screw in my 2x4 that holds the metal back into my building. So I'm overkilling it, over-engineering it, if you watch the videos, but I wanted to point that out to you so that you understand and so I'm not leading you incorrect. All right, on to the project. So what we're moving forward today, we've got all of our 2x4s on our roof, except for the 2x4 that will go out here. We have to get our fascia board on first. And as you can see, hopefully, that these are all a little bit different in length because we cut the angles a little bit different. We're gonna cut these off at the correct measurement that we want them and get the correct angle so that our fascia board stands up perfectly up and down. Good hand motion there. So we're gonna cut this angle. So how do you do this? Well, one way is to go ahead and take a little piece of a board, cut it the exact same angle, the 12 degrees that we cut up there. It will be the same down here. Make you a mark, and typically I mark this end and that end and then run a chalk line across the top, making them all straight, and then I'll go and I'll use that jig board as my stencil for all of these boards as we go down through here. That is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to find out your measurement, where you want to be at, which I'll talk about here in a second, and use a level. Get your level perfect here, and then do the same thing on the other end. Chalk your line at the top and the bottom, or chalk your line at just the top, and that'll tell you where to go at least from that. And then you can use your speed square. So if you use your level and then the speed square, you can use the marks on the speed square to get your exact angle all the way down through that. I've done that a lot in the past. And typically that is how I do it, is I use my speed square. I'm pretty good at it. I've used it a lot. I know the angles. And so I'll just go down through there and use my speed square. But today I'm working with my son. We're gonna use this jig board so I can show him how to do that. And we can do that. So I will take my jig board with the angle that I made, which was 12 degrees. I will figure out where I want to be at. I'll make my mark. I will check it with my level before I do any cutting. I'll do the same thing on the other end, chalk my line, and then go down through and mark them all, and then begin to cut them all off. and then we will put our fascia board on, and that's the next job. So we're gonna go ahead and get these marked, and then we will show you that. Okay, so we're on our roof and we're figuring out where we wanna cut our first board off. Okay, so my metal that I purchased was 12 foot long. And so you can get metal cut at any length that you want if you go to a specialty store. I typically go to a specific store called CMT here in our local area, and they'll cut it to the inch or wherever I want it cut. But I did not know exactly what I wanted, and they were closed during this Christmas break for their winter shutdown. So I ordered 12 foot metal. It turns out it was perfect. So lucky me. But what here we got to do is we got to figure out where we cut these off. So this metal, we just slap it up and it's good to go. So we measure from our band board. We're going to shove our metal all the way against our existing building, and then the transition piece will go on top of that. But we're going to shove it against our building, and we come down here. I don't know how well this is going to show up. My metal will come right here. So I like a 1 inch overhang on into my gutter. So I'll have a fascia board here with wrapping, and then my gutter will be on that. But I want my metal to hang over that 1 inch on top of my gutter. So there's where my metal goes. I step back my 1 inch because I want an overhang. Then I got a 1.5 inch 2x8 fascia board. So I step back another 1.5 inches to account for my fascia board that's going to be on here. Now you could do another 1/8 for your aluminum covering. You could do another 1/8 to give you some play up there, which is probably what I should do. And so we make our mark, and then we get our angle. I used my jig board that's already cut with my 12 degrees. I held it on here, you know, like that, and I made my mark. Simple enough. I'll do this at this end and at the other end, and then I will chalk a line on the top of all these from here to the other end. That will allow me to put this jig board on all of them, and they'll all be the same. They'll all be in a nice straight line, and everything should be even. Then when I put my metal up, I use my tape measure on this end to make sure I'm overhanging that 1 inch that I'm looking for. We've got all our angles cut now. I double checked them all with the level, went down through, used my block, and then got my speed square. And I ended up using my speed square just to try to show him how to do it a little bit. And I wanted to get this perfect, and that's just the common way to do it. The most accurate way to get these is to chalk the top and the bottom of the boards so that everyone is perfect. But if you're good with a speed square and you've done this enough, a block is easy as well. That's a good way to do it. So they're all cut. We're going to put our fascia board up now. Let's walk out here. So this takes a couple people, and there is pros and cons about how to do this and how you should do this. My preferred method is to start at one end and work my way the other way. So I'll screw this end in, putting 2 screws in every board. I'll go back, maybe put 3 at the end, but I'll put the screws in, and then I'll have a team of people, my wife and my son, my 13-year-old, lift up and down as we go. So some of these boards, as they're warped, they're not exactly perfect. They could be off as much as a 1/2 inch down through there. But as you lift your fascia board up and down to make it perfect, the fascia board will ensure that they're all perfectly square, all perfectly aligned. And so that's what we'll do. And then we'll screw a 2x4 on top to anchor that in as well. But we'll start at this end, and I'll just keep moving my ladder down and say up or down, and then screw it in. The further I go, the easier it gets on that team. And so the most experienced person with a drill should have what seems to be the easier job, just putting in the screws, because the longer they wait, the slower this guy is, the harder it is on their arms. And you know, sometimes you may just put a screw in it, tack it up, and give them a break. But that's what we're gonna do next, put this fascia board on. All right, we've got our band board on. So our screws are all in. We cut off our 2x4s. I kind of wait till the end to do that. So the 2x4s that stick beyond this side, we've cut those off. We've trimmed everything. Everything's been checked. It's time to put up metal. So unfortunately, I only have 2 hands and little helpers, so I can't video while I'm putting this up. But what's gonna happen is the first piece is the most critical, and we're gonna put this piece up, make sure it's square, make our measurements really carefully at the end. And then as we go, the metal just kind of hooks to itself, and so it's just spot checking from then on. Not very big lean-to here, only 12 or 15 feet long. So 5 pieces of metal, and we're gonna knock this out real quick. But we'll screw the first piece on. I'll show you, I'll talk to you about that. And then we'll come back and we'll finish it out. Well, we're putting our metal up. It is raining. We are getting soaked, but I wanna go ahead and get this done. and then we'll quit for the day. We're gonna run this all the way out, and then we're gonna do our concrete pad before we go in, and we'll be done for the day. It's kind of nasty getting wet, but I want this up to get us protected. So we're gonna keep going on with this. Basically, I'm only doing the top and the bottom right now because I'm getting soaked. On our roof, I put the screws in the ribs. On the walls, I put screws on flats. I'll show you what that means here in a little bit as we go down through. So the one negative thing about metal is the screws and the washers. So metal tends to outlast washers. Washers will dry rot and will cause leaks before the metal will typically rust away and cause a hole. But if you do certain things, it will help. And one thing is where you put your screws. This is my personal opinion. I'm sure each metal company has their own engineering specs. There is pros and cons. This is considered a flat on the flat part of the metal. Up on the rib would be on the rib. So there are pros and cons for each way to do it. I put the screw up on the rib if it's on a roof where rain will come down on top of it, mainly because the water falls in this trench and the washer stays out of the rain. On a flat, it doesn't really, or on the walls, it doesn't really matter because the rain is always going to hit the screw, whether it's on the flat or the rib. So I put the screws on the flats, which are easier, one, to install, and two, they hold tight. The negative of going in the rib with your screw is if you go down too far, it will buckle the metal. So you're constantly like taking your time to adjust and get that correct. You don't want that washer to over smash, but you want it to be tight. And that washer is what allows it to flex during heat and cold transition of the metal. So that's what I mean when I talk about being on a rib or on a flat. This is a wall, so I put them on the flats. On the roof, I put them on the rib. Well, still raining. The help has abandoned ship. They went to the house. Still trying to get a little work done. I cleaned up the pig pen and did some stuff inside for a little bit. Rain kind of let up, and then as soon as I got started back, here it's drizzling on me again. But basically what I've done, went ahead and got my first piece of metal up on the siding, and I really want to show you this. This is kind of important how I'm doing this. So the metal goes on first, and I like to run it underneath the lean-to up here, and then over, and then straight up against my joist board. So it's tight against there, and make sure everything's square, put a level on it. The first piece is really critical. I got that piece screwed in. I can't finish up there up top and screw the old piece down to this piece because we don't have that transition piece in yet. Because I haven't screwed the roof down, and I haven't got the transition piece because it's raining, and it's a bad choice to get on the roof when it's raining, especially a metal roof. You can slip really easy. I already have a bad back. I'm not getting up there. So I'm gonna do as much as I can from the ground safely while still enduring the wetness. Next, I have fallen in love with this flashing. It comes pre-bent. It is vinyl. So I used to use all aluminum flashing and buy it at Home Depot or Lowe's or my local hardware store. And aluminum looks nice. You can bend it a little easier around edges. But over time, it tears up and different things, and it dents. And it's gotten a little expensive as inflation and COVID and those kind of things have happened. So I started buying this vinyl just to try it out. One thing I like about this vinyl versus the aluminum that I was buying is the vinyl is 8 inches tall. So I like to build 2x6 or 2x8 trusses and fascia boards, so it fits perfectly. Whereas I was having to wrap or either get a roll of aluminum and bend it myself, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, vinyl, I've fallen in love with this stuff. It cuts really nice. I screwed in with the metal roofing screws. It's gonna last forever. It's plastic, it washes. It is very, very close to the color. So most people don't even notice it. I'm colorblind, I definitely don't notice it. But main thing is it protects. And so what I have done, once I got that sheet metal up on the side here, then I cut that same 12-degree cut, and I just use my 10 snips to cut the vinyl. It seems to work pretty well. Go slow. And then I tuck that in tight against that. So now behind there's probably a 1/4 inch of metal behind that flashing of that vinyl. Vinyl butts up to it tight. You can see I put it in, hopefully you can see that. I put it in with the metal barn screws, same screws I'm using here. And then because I'm not getting on the roof and not gonna do that corner mold today, I use some little white flathead vinyl nails, just teeny little finish nails basically. And I tacked it in across the top. Typically I wouldn't even do that because my roofing corner piece angle, my 90, would just come down and clamp, and as I screw that into my joist, it covers and clamps the top of that vinyl. So it makes a really nice flashing. And then we'll go out here, I'll show you how I do these cuts. So same angle here is cut, but I leave it stick out. Oh, I just got water right down my back. I leave it stick out 1/4 to a 1/2 inch here. And so what'll happen is this fascia board will come in and tuck against that, and then the corner bead, my 90, as it comes over the metal, I like to stick that a little further. Let's go down here to a barn I finished a year ago, and I'll show you that. So that when that corner comes down, it sticks past, preventing water from blowing in that corner. You can run a bead of caulk there if you want, but I think it looks pretty nice. And so I do not miter this corner. I like the 90 on it, and I'll just run it past, and it matches the overhang of the roof that I have. Obviously you can see I don't have the gutters on here yet, but what has happened is this tucks past and this other one tucks right underneath of it. It's very hard for water to get in there. And then when you put your gutter and you butt your gutter right up against there, not very much water will ever get behind there onto your fascia boards. Very nice looking, very well protected. You can kind of see how this will finally look as we get over there. So that's what I'm working on now. Well, I finally got rained out, so I came in for the evening. We finished up with just connecting some wires that we had taken apart for some of the lighting in the barn when we were destroying that wall, basically. So we got that wrapped back up, and we're completely rained out. So hopefully tomorrow we'll get some better weather. We'll get back on it. First thing we need to do is get that door reinstalled back in, and then work on that metal. And if the roof dries off enough that I feel comfortable getting on it, then we'll put all those screws in the roof in. We do have 2 major lines in, so I'm not worried about it blowing away or anything, but we'll get up, chalk some lines, make them nice and straight, and we'll get all that done, get all of our corners done, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get that the outer exterior part wrapped up. Thanks for watching.